I just played every Tony Hawk game ever made. That's over 25 years of digital skateboarding history wrapped up in one video. And not only are we covering one of the most influential gaming franchises in history, but we're also giving away a copy of the brand new Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 remastered in this video. Stay tuned to the end to find out more, but for now, let's talk about how Spider-Man, Darth Maul, and whoever this is are all involved in the Tony Hawk universe. My first experience with the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series is one of my most cherished gaming memories. From grinding rails in a warehouse to getting massive air in a Miami high school, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games did a remarkable job at capturing the rebellious teen spirit that is skateboarding. Seeing these PlayStation 1 graphics in 2025 was like meeting an old friend after you've grown apart. You may not talk anymore, you barely even text, but you'll never forget all those hours spent at the school lunch table just talking about anything. The freedom of youth held you close as you happily wasted time doing whatever you wanted. The world was yours when Tony Hawk Pro Skater dropped in 1999, and even though the models looked simple, blocky, and sometimes flat, like an old shoe, you can step right back into the warm hug of nostalgia. From the stylized menus to the hilarious consequences that come from daring to jump in front of New York City taxi drivers, Tony Hawk Pro Skater is a time capsule for gaming innovation. Skateboard culture was already large enough on its own, but with the help of the most average-looking frontman the world had ever seen, now every 90s kid could kickflip their summers away without a care in the world. This game has sold over 5 million copies since 1999, and for good reason. It opened the eyes of 90s and 2000s kids to the possibility of being a skateboarder. It removed the fear of getting hurt, until you tried yourself, but still, the risk seemed less intimidating. If I had to describe it, this game feels like the Nickelodeon Worldwide Day of Play. A time when kids' channels actually told you to go outside, get some sun, and come home when the streetlights come on. This game had multiple developers for each version, including the now iconic Treyarch, but Neversoft was the developer for the PS1 version, which sold the best. And so with their newfound success, they did what any good company does when they have a winner. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 dropped in the fall of 2000 and was my first introduction to the Pro Skater series. To this day, I credit this game for introducing me to Rage Against the Machine. Guerrilla Radio is the perfect song for tearing up the new and improved warehouse or shredding the roll call rails on School 2. I spent so much time there as a kid, you'd think I'd actually be a good skater. I'm not, but that's a conversation for another day. You're not going to catch me jumping out of a helicopter trying to land tricks on a floating halfpipe in the middle of the ocean anytime soon. But you can catch Spider-Man grinding subway rails in New York. J. Jonah Jameson be damned, that boy can shred. One of the coolest things about the Pro Skater series is the amount of crossovers you see in each game, but only if you lock in and beat the game in career mode. Or go to GameFAQs.com and beg your mom to print off the cheat codes and then take them to your friend's house and unlock everything because you're bad at the game. While I was spending hours racking up my parents' internet bill in the early 2000s, Neversoft channeled the power of the dark side with their next release. Pop quiz. What do Darth Maul, the Neversoft eyeball guy, and a seductive demoness have to do with a skateboarding game? Because I have no idea. I'm seriously asking. Either way, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was clearly a passion project for the Neversoft team. Not only are there new maps, characters, and a new soundtrack, but these little details like the skate shop guy getting choked out by the Force or hitting on your hot-looking skater chick really stood out to me.
Yeah, I love this tune. Who wants to dance?
And don't get me started on the Foundry. I had an impossible time trying to grind this stupid bucket, only to realize I was doing it wrong for hours. But even when I turned Tony Hawk into a crispy chicken sandwich, I wasn't mad because look at the size of this place. There's so much room for activities. Even by today's standards, this 2001 game looks incredible. Graphics finally got out of the polygon era and people actually looked like people, which only made the game more fun when I decided to tear up a cruise ship as Darth Maul while wielding his iconic double-sided lightsaber, and then promptly switch over to the scantily clad Demon Queen and watched her bounce around Tokyo. It's for an achievement, Mom, I promise. Speaking of achievements, is it me, or were these tournaments really hard? I could not, for the life of me, get an average above 80 from the judges no matter how hard I tried. Unlocking Rio Ruckus wasn't that bad, but getting past it, that's a whole other story. I'd rather just put in cheat codes and cruise around Tokyo as a smoking hot babe, if I'm honest. And then there's the final installment in the Pro Skater series, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, released in 2002, which also came with a mobile version that die-hard fans didn't ask for. It seems Neversoft's 4-year run with the Pro Skater series was coming to a close, but they still put their best foot forward. First of all, they got rid of the dreaded 2-minute run system, so now you can skate around to your heart's content in a more open world / choose your own adventure style. However, the challenges were just as hard, if not harder than before. I still have no idea how to collect all these pink elephants in time. And after what felt like forever, I was able to nail the moving parade float challenge, but just barely. And Muska's combos seemed impossible. Are they possible, or am I just that bad? Don't answer that. While this game was great, sales were actually declining for the franchise overall. The formula was stable, but tired. The world needed more than just cool tricks and jiggle physics. Actually, speaking of jiggle physics, if anything, Pro Skater 4 wasn't the end for Neversoft, just the beginning of the more iconic installments in the Tony Hawk series. That's right, just when you thought a game about a guy who looks a lot like a famous skateboarder couldn't get any weirder, Neversoft dropped a wild addition to the series. This time, you've got an actual plot wrapped around your default character. Now, you're some unknown kid in a neighborhood in New Jersey that needs to make a name for himself by impressing the locals and working your way up. It's simple, direct, and still a pain in the ass to do some of the challenges. Oh yeah, and you can get off your board now. I still remember being blown away when I first saw people playing this at Walmart, knowing you could now walk around. What are they going to think of next? Tokyo Drift-style car missions? Oh, I guess they did. After you escape New Jersey, thank God, you end up in New York with a whole different series of challenges that chip away at your sanity. I'm convinced there's no way to moonwalk 5-0 the waterfront line. That has to be bait, right? Between the poorly designed stealth missions and corny cutscenes, it's impossible not to love Tony Hawk's Underground. It's unique, it's weird, and it's cemented in our memories forever. But can the same be said for the sequel? Yes, it can. The game starts off simple in an oh-so-familiar place, but with a few additions. Not only do you get this cool slow-mo effect when you nail a trick, but you also get to bust your board if you suck. And I did a lot. Everything seems normal until you break out of the warehouse and end up in ye olde Boston, and suddenly you're grinding rails on a V8-powered Segway. And if you think that's goofy, just wait till you unlock Benjamin Franklin as a playable character. Yes, that Benjamin Franklin. Is there anything more American than hitting tricks as one of the founding fathers right where the Boston Tea Party happened? The only thing missing is a fat guy on a Walmart scooter firing a 6-shooter and waving the flag. Underground 2 felt like Sharknado with more charisma. It knew it was goofy, over the top, and didn't apologize for it. And because of that, I enjoyed it even more, especially when I found out you can chuck tomatoes at random citizens for extra points. Underground 2 was so successful, it eventually got a PSP version called Underground 2 Remix, which was actually a PSP launch title in 2005. In my opinion, this is where the series peaked, but not everyone agrees. I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but first, let's talk about how you can win a free game from watching this video. Now, as I mentioned earlier, by watching this video, you can win a free copy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. I have a sponsorship from Instant Gaming. They helped me fund this video and let me buy a game to give away to you guys. That's what they do. I bought a bunch of titles to give away in past videos thanks to Instant Gaming, and I don't plan on stopping. Whether you want the latest Tony Hawk game, or Oblivion Remastered, or Expedition 33, you can find anything and everything at discounted prices by using the code on screen now or the link in the description below. Not only is my affiliate code showing as a QR code, but so is the free copy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. But it's hidden carefully in this video. Did you find it yet? Game codes are first come, first serve, but don't worry if you missed this one because there's more where that came from in future videos. Plus, in addition to giving away this game thanks to Instant Gaming, I've also hidden part of a password in this video. It's part of a special series for something I'm calling The Vault. We'll talk more about it soon, but for now, special thanks to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video and making this all possible. Now, let's talk about one of the most underrated installments in the Tony Hawk franchise.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Yes, I'm a hugger. I like to think of it as a full-body handshake.
In the age of Monster Energy drinks, Xbox Live, and Windows XP came the goofiest game in the series, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. This game didn't get a ton of love back in the day compared to previous games, but it still maintained a silly, self-aware personality of its own. From the bad voice acting to the cringy dialogue, it's impossible not to love this very 2000s feeling game about a guy trying to make his name in sunny Los Angeles. And that's it. That's the plot. There are no more levels, just more of LA and more tricks to do. The movement felt easy too, like way easier than Underground 2 and Pro Skater 4. Even though it felt like the game was holding my hand most of the time, I still found time to commit a few felonies and ride BMX bikes, which was a nice touch. Although I can't lie, I spent most of my time button mashing after every failed stunt just to get the freakout points. It's cheesy, but honest. This game just feels like something you'd see your friend's older brother playing in July of 2005 while he slams a Vault energy drink and hogs the controller. And even though it wasn't a smash hit like the earlier releases, it still got its own port to the Nintendo DS known as Tony Hawk's American Skateland. This was also the first game in the series to end up on the DS, which was no small feat considering the chokehold Nintendo had on the portable gaming market in the 2000s. It's not going to be your favorite, you might have even forgotten about it until this video, but one thing's for sure, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland is a charming staple in the series. Now, if you're looking for a game that perfectly captures the clothing style of the 2000s, look no further than Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. I mean, just look at that logo. It belongs on a tap-out shirt. I regret not playing this game as a kid because despite feeling like a game that background actors would play in a John Wick movie, it combines everything I love into one simple package. Racing, punching civilians, and getting as many points as possible against your friends. When it comes to Tony Hawk games, I feel like no one mentions this one. It feels like the Mario Kart Double Dash of the series. I feel like it's not talked about often, but when it is, people's eyes light up as a wave of nostalgia washes over the room. I had so much fun with this game. Downhill skating was one of my favorite things to watch as a teen, so knowing I could have lived that life virtually every day after school brings my inner child so much joy. And he's not easy to please. My inner child has very high standards. My outer adult, however, doesn't care. The interview-style cutscenes before every race are hilariously charming as well. I'll never get tired of games or shows poking fun at 2000s reality TV.
So, besides being all crowded and dirty and smelling like fish guts, Hong Kong's actually a pretty rad course. The last time I was here, the locals saw me hitting some big air and thought I was a goddess.
Even though this game got mixed reviews in its day and for some reason got ports to the DS and Game Boy Advance, it still carries weight as a title. It's the only racing game in the entire Tony Hawk franchise and plays like the skateboard version of Hydro Thunder, but from time to time, it can definitely scratch that high-octane itch. If only the same could be said for the next title on our list. Widely regarded as pivotal yet underwhelming, Tony Hawk's Project 8 challenged the franchise and fans alike with this puzzling release. Let's start with the bad stuff. It's boring. Like, really boring. I'm sorry to you hardcore fans, but it's just another skate game. The combos are neat, and the minigames that force you to get a 6 score are definitely fun, but other than that, it's pretty bland. Then again, Project 8 did bring us the nail the trick mechanic, which had a huge impact on skate game development in the future. You start off in this little neighborhood as you work your way into 6 status by doing various, well, tricks, go figure, and eventually unlock a mission with this bastardized Chuck E. Cheese character that wants you to grab onto his RC car and break into the next level. Listen, I don't care who you are, I am not trusting a guy in a beaver suit telling me to just latch onto his RC car and break out of this gate so we can all be free. Maybe you shouldn't get to lead, bud. Also, I love the idea that we're quarantined off from the world in this cul-de-sac like the rest of society doesn't want any part of. Oh yeah, that actually makes sense. Anyway, after you break open the gate, you get to go downtown, or as I call it, the piss level. Seriously, why were we so obsessed with consuming media that looked like it was in a dirty fish tank? So you go downtown, you do your thing, you get in trouble sometimes, and so on. Look, it's not the most memorable title, but it's not bad. It plays well, there's no argument there, and the nail the trick mechanic was a great choice, but much like the first telephone or computer, there's a reason we moved on. Ah yes, 2007. The year of the iPhone, the front-facing camera, and most importantly, the last year Neversoft touched the Tony Hawk series. You've heard me praise them endlessly in this video, and for good reason. They had a passion for these games that was unmatched, but somehow they fell flat this time around. Many players felt like this was a very average release for the Tony Hawk series, and I can't disagree. The push mechanic was cool and it felt more interactive, and the nail the manual and nail the grab mechanics felt reminiscent of Project 8, but something was missing. Some even say it felt closer to Skate than its own thing, which didn't help considering Skate 1 came out the same year and sold more copies on the Xbox 360 than Proving Ground did. And while Proving Ground did have a beautiful grunge look to it, Skate did what players wanted and just felt better. While the series was on its decline and gamers moved on, that didn't stop developers from getting experimental. Following in the footsteps of every bank in 2008, the Tony Hawk series took a catastrophic nosedive when they released Motion. Is it unique? Yes. Is it hot garbage? Also yes, this handheld game used the Motion Pack, made exclusively for the Nintendo DS, and offered almost nothing new for players. Not only did it sell a staggering 210,000 units, but it also managed to get a whopping 39 on Metacritic, which is almost an achievement in itself. The problem with this game wasn't just the unresponsive controls and bland content, but it also inspired a complete line of failed motion control games. In 2009, you had Tony Hawk Ride, where you used a physical skateboard controller to try and navigate your way through the echoes of what was an influential franchise, and it sucked. That same day in 2009, Tony Hawk Vert was released for mobile devices, and it was fine. Then a year later in 2010, you had Tony Hawk Shred, yet another physical skateboard game that no one asked for. In fact, Shred was so bad, it sold a gut-wrenching 3,000 copies in its first week. 3,000! Granted, the $120 price tag didn't help, but either way, it wasn't until 2012 that the series finally picked up the pieces and gave us what we wanted. While the rest of the world was concerned with the Mayan calendar and some guy named Coney, Activision had other ideas in 2012. In a desperate attempt to relive the glory days like your hometown's high school quarterback, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD promised a lot and delivered some. I bought this game shortly after release and still remember the vague disappointment as I realized there was no split-screen local multiplayer or custom level design. Not to mention, it just felt hollow. It felt like someone re-gifted you a fruitcake that you yourself re-gifted in 2002, and now 10 years later the cake just looks like a fossilized relic of what it used to be. But don't worry, just add water, right? Wrong. Pro Skater HD was fine, I guess. It scratched the itch for me for about 9 hours before I got bored and realized that sometimes you just can't go back home. This game felt like a virtual metaphor about growing up. Sure, your hometown might look familiar with a few minor differences, but nothing hits the same. It's almost like the series lost its identity, like it aged with Tony himself, but instead of maturing and growing, it kept trying to hold on to the past. Even 3 years later, in 2015, they tried to release Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, 13 years after what was thought to be the final chapter in the Pro Skater saga. And the crowd went mild. Most people don't even remember Pro Skater 5, and neither do the servers. It was not only boring, but received a lot of backlash over some platforms needing to be online all the time just to play. Supposedly, the PS3 version doesn't require that, so that's cool, I guess. At this point, like a guy who won't leave at the end of a party, this series stuck around longer than it needed to. Tony Hawk's Project 8 Mobile dropped in 2017 and quickly disappeared, and then in 2018 came Tony Hawk's Skate Jam, which feels nothing like a Tony Hawk game at all, and comes across like an asset flip instead. But there is a happy ending for the series amidst all this floundering. In 2020, we finally got what we wanted. I remember being skeptical buying this during COVID, thinking it would be just a repeat of Pro Skater HD, and much to my surprise, it wasn't at all. There's no other way to say it. The remaster of Pro Skater 1 and 2 feels indistinguishable from the original. It plays better, it responds better, and even on the Switch, it looks better. Finally, a proper developer got their chance at reviving the series, and it worked. Now we can talk about the upcoming release of Pro Skater 3 and 4, which I'll be streaming live on this channel on July 11th at 10 a.m. The reviews are in, and 3 and 4 look fantastic, so I have high hopes, but if you want to save your money or just swing by and say hi, be sure to do so. I'm sure by this point you're all wondering about the vault that I mentioned, so let's get into it. Video games are expensive. I know. Historically, they've technically gone down in price, but everything else hasn't. Everything else has gone the other way. And because everything is so expensive, and you guys have given me the opportunity of a lifetime, I want to give back. So, as I said earlier, if you missed your chance at finding the QR code for Pro Skater 3 and 4, don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, and several of my past videos, I've hidden one letter that makes up a password to unlock the vault, which will be a complete collection of over 100 games, totally free. You don't have to like the video, sub, comment, anything like that, but you really should. You just need to watch closely. I've linked the rest of the Vault series in a playlist down below, so be sure to check that out. As we get closer to revealing the full password, I'll let you guys know. That way you guys can be prepared and get ready to unlock the Vault. And of course, most importantly, I'll see you next time.